Welcome to All Things Considered CX, the podcast where we challenge the status quo of customer experience. Hosted by Bob Asman, this show is all about disrupting practices and redefining what it means to truly connect with customers. In this unhinged approach to CX, we're focused on building better experiences from the ground up. Each episode, Bob dives into the bold ideas, unconventional strategies, and fresh perspectives that are shaking up the world of CX. We're bringing you the voices that are pushing boundaries and changing the game. If you're ready to rethink how customer experience is done and drive real transformation, you're in the right place. Let's get into today's episode of All Things Considered CX.
Hello and welcome back. We have another episode of the All Things Considered CX Unhinged podcast are ready to go for you listeners. And as always, we found another great guest to join us. Chander Sharma is joining me today. He's going to give us an introduction and a little bit of his background, and then we're going to dive into some really interesting topics. His book, some challenges that executives have, and I think some really pertinent issues with customer experience. So, Chander, welcome to the podcast, and if you would introduce yourself to our listeners.
Thank you, Bob. It's a pleasure being here. I appreciate the opportunity to share some thoughts on to your broad audience. I was born in India, and typically in Indian environment, parents focus on education a lot, there were few career options: doctor, engineer, and failure. So that's how they used to call it. Either you become a doctor or engineer, or you are not. So, I did not have too much perspective. Internet was not there that time, right? So you can't. So whatever parents said, okay. So I chose engineering. I did engineering and got to work with some of the largest global organizations. In the beginning itself, the first one was Eicher Mitsubishi, where I got a flavor of Japanese culture. There was a collaboration of Eicher. They were manufacturing automobile, commercial vehicles, large commercial vehicles, and they had a collaboration with. And then from there, I moved to Delphi Automotive Systems, which is part of GM, General Motors that time. And GM was like global ranked number one organization that time. So it was a very different thing, American management style than Japanese management style, and a different leadership style, just very different. And then I was with Delphi for a good amount of time, and then got to work with several other organizations, Whirlpool Corporation, General Electric, and I was then moved to US. I was in US for a good amount of time, working with GE, Genpact, as operations leader, looking at transformation, and then moved to Canada, worked with some of the largest banks and insurance companies, Royal Bank, Manulife. And during this time, I also thought, it's good to do an MBA as well. So I, with my partner, who was the partner with BizXL, my firm, but also we met when we were doing our MBA from Cornell. So we did our MBA from Cornell in 2008 time frame. It looks like a long time back, everything. So that's where I met Tony Iskander, who's the other author of the book as well, right? So, and we had our own paths, and we somehow it converged again, and he's part of the BizXL leadership team now, and we got together to write this book. Together, over 3 decades now of experience globally, working with global leaders, trying to help them with their strategic priorities, synthesize clarity and operational transformation all across. So that's a brief about me, Bob.
Wonderful. That's a great background. And before we get into the details around the book and some of the key concepts, which I think are going to be really helpful to our listeners, because you worked with large organizations and today work for large organizations and today work with large organizations, give me a sense of your perspective of where are we at, what are the challenges, maybe some of the impetus for writing the book, before you actually started writing it, what were you seeing and hearing, and what are you seeing and hearing today about what executives are facing and what large organizations are facing in terms of challenges and opportunities?
Yeah, it's a very interesting world, Bob. I see two different perspectives. So across industries, we are living in one of the most paradoxical moments in business. On one hand, we have more tools, we have more data, more technology, more talent than ever, right? And on the other hand, CXOs tell me that they have never felt more overwhelmed because there is so much of technology, so many options to choose from, right? And that's the over reason for overwhelm. And if I look at holistically in the business environment, there's three forces converging right now, right? So one is the velocity of change has outpaced leadership bandwidth. So if you look at, there was a McKinsey survey which came out some time back. It said the rate of operational change inside large organizations has tripled since 2016. But obviously, leadership capacity has not, right? That's the complexity. So executives are stuck in a cycle of constant firefighting, reactive meetings, endless reporting, whether it's regulatory reporting, internal reporting, so many reports, because now you have more data, easy access to data, now more reports. Now you have to spend time in reviewing those reports, right? So you are stuck in that spiral and very little time for strategic renewal. So that's one challenge, right? The second challenge which I see, Bob, is the customer expectations, are moving faster than organizational capability. So
Mm.
today, whichever industry you are in, the customers compare you to their not just your direct competitors, but they compare you to Amazon's one-click experience or Apple's frictionless ecosystem. So now they have access to all these things, right? What they experience and know what they like. And they have expectations that whether you are a bank, an insurance company, or a manufacturing company, you are able to replicate the same kind of experience for them, right? So that's another challenge for leaders, right, today. And as Walmart hit an all-time high this quarter yesterday, when I was like, and there was a time when Walmart was kind of written off, right? So leaders were saying that Walmart is written off. When Amazon was started to gain speed, and momentum, people were saying that brick and mortar is going to be obsolete, it's going to be out. But the leadership can make a difference, and that's where and he made a statement. So Walmart CEO Doug McMillan, he said something very powerful. So he said, people don't judge us by what we sell, they judge us by how easy we make it to shop. So that is the new battlefield, not product, not price, but this expectation of effortlessness is what is going to make a difference. You know.
So
So
true.
yeah,
So
you have a
true.
comment?
And Chandra, the one thing I'll interject is, I've been talking about the Amazon effect, meaning
Hmm.
exactly how you described it. And I talked to leaders in all kinds of organizations, insurance, business to consumer, financial services, doesn't matter.
Right,
And a lot of times they'll look at me and say, "Well, Amazon isn't my competitor. Why,
right,
why are you talking to me about Amazon?" And I'll say, "They
right,
might not be your competitor, but everybody's comparing you to how fast you get what your product is to
right,
Amazon." And they're just
right.
almost stunned by that. And
Yeah, yeah.
over time, I try to convince them that that's what's happening because we're all consumers, regardless of our role in business. And so you just affirmed that the Amazon effect is in full effect right now.
Absolutely, it's full blown there, and if organizations are complacent, what is going to happen is the new startups are going to come, and they are going to have a model which is going to deliver that experience which customers are looking for, and the larger ones will get displaced. Like Sears
Mhm.
was there, it was a very large organization. Walmart was there that time. Walmart survived, Sears did not, right? Because
Mm.
it's just whose leadership is able to change and pivot with the needs of the consumer. And that's finally, it is the customer who decides. The customer decides who they want to buy the products or services from, and when they get a better option, they will pivot. So if you don't
Right.
pivot, they will do that.
That's exactly right. And they'll give you very few chances. They're going to pivot almost immediately, right? So,
Exactly. Yeah. And the third
bit,
driver, Bob, for
yeah.
this one is, internal operational busyness leaks externally as poor customer experience. And that's a very, very critical point, right? So many times leaders, because this is hidden. The customer experience part is kind of hidden because longer wait times are not visible directly on the P&L to as a metric for the CXOs to see. Slower responses or higher error rates or inconsistent service, broken cross-functional handoffs. So all these things are not directly visible to the CXOs today, unless they put some metrics in place. And that's why the delta and delta in terms of the focus on these things. So there was a research from Forrester which said 72% customer dissatisfaction is caused by internal process failures, not frontline behavior. And that is very powerful, right? So if we want to be a world-class organization, we have to deliver stellar experiences to our customers, and who are going to be the advocates for our products and services. If we don't want to do that, then there's a problem.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I hope our CX professionals listening on this podcast heard that clearly, that we do have to, that's part of our effort, and we have to achieve that. So you wrote a book, and
Yes.
I have to pronounce the book right because it's Busyness to Business. And a couple of times when I was discovering the book, I had to read it a couple of times. It's like, am I reading this right? And then it clicked for me. It was like, oh, I get it. So tell us about the book, and you gave us a little bit of background on it. Tell us about the book.
Yeah, happy to do so, Bob. So business is not business, right? So that's the fundamental distinction that mentally, that if we are as leaders are able to do, then we'll start finding ways and means to move from away from busyness, right? So the reason for writing this book was over my journey of three decades across different continents and different organizations. And I have been observing leaders who are able to transform, so to say, established thought thinking of organizations which are going down the spiral and convert to a very successful organization, right? So I'll give a couple of examples for that, right? So the first one is Satya Nadella. So Satya Nadella at Microsoft, that when he didn't win by making people work harder or making them, busier, right? He won by realigning the entire culture around purpose and customer value for Microsoft. When Satya Nadella became CEO in 2014, he inherited a company which was drowning in its own complexity, right? So there were over 20 versions of Windows, right? So he could have added a new version of Windows, which is better than the earlier version, but he focused on not adding, but cutting, but reducing, and that is a fundamental shift, right? So Nadella could have added more strategies and more products or more initiatives. Instead, he subtracted everything down to the three words that he used to create momentum across the enterprise, which is first is number one is clarity. Second is energy. So wherever first you have to have clarity, where when you have clarity, then the energy has to flow there. And then the success is a byproduct. Measure success and keep learning. Make a learning organization, right? So that's a whole cultural change rather than just pushing the product into the market. Whatever you are making, you are trying to push. Now here the alignment completely changed. The focus changed. And that's why, from where Satya Nadella inherited Microsoft, it is a multi-trillion dollar, so many times bigger organization today.
Hmm.
So there are many organizations like this, we have studied and researched, and they are part of the book as case studies. And at the end, there is a section called Masterclass. So I'll talk about that a little later, it will be helpful
Right.
for the audience to see, and for the leaders to see how they can benchmark with these leaders, on where their gaps exist and where they are strong, and how do we measure this. But this journey of finding a lot of additional effort and the cultural change. So you would have observed, Bob, many times in many organizations there is a culture of being busy, right? So if you are busy, your calendar is full, then you are productive, right? Whether you go into those meetings and do anything, make any decisions, or just go and sit and chat and come back and then schedule another meeting, it's all wasted effort. It is that is a culture, right? So we observe that there is a cultural tax, there is a busyness tax in terms of ROI, which the organization is doing. So decisions get delayed. People don't measure the busyness tax as a metric, but on the P&L, it is going to reflect, because if your project's decisions, if are going to get delayed, they're going to get executed late. And that is what is going to cost the enterprise. And if you're not focusing on this clarity metric per se, or the business tax, so to say, then it's going to create a lot of slowness in the organization. And many organizations are suffering from that because the organization become big, and then each functional area is structured with different priorities. If you ask all the CXOs of the organization, what are the top three priorities across which you are leading today? Many of them will not be able to answer that question, right? And if you get an answer, then do an audit of their calendar. Is 80% of their time aligned to the top three strategic priorities? If no, then that is where the problem is.
Right, right.
Right.
And I bet they don't even, sometimes each, a CIO versus a CO versus CEO might have different strategies as well that they're working on. So then you have that complexity that cuts across your example, right?
Then you're fighting internally for different resources. It is an internal fight, and you're wasting time and resources on doing that, right? So it's
Right.
my area that versus your area, my domain versus your domain, right? So it's not the enterprise domain. How we can collaborate and contribute and make it the best outcome for the enterprise and customers.
Right.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So that's all these things culminated into this book, Bob. And it is a lot of examples we have included where it shows the slowness, the impact of busyness for our organizations and leaders like Warren Buffett. So Warren Buffett just stepped down, or is stepping down in December.
Right.
So I remember, about 1.5 decades back, the shareholders used to ask, "What is your succession plan?" And there were people who retired, who became plus 65, who were identified as his successors, right? But
Right.
it was very interesting that he is able to survive for so long and create that kind of thing because he has that clarity. And he has, I've heard him saying one thing, that I insist on a lot of time being spent almost every day to just sit and think. And many
Mm.
leaders will think that is downtime, but that is not downtime. That is avoiding the business tax. His discipline around perspective is why Berkshire Hathaway is has compounded for decades, while others have burnt out.
Talked a little bit more about the business tax, because I like that concept that you mentioned in the book.
Yeah.
Expound on that a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So the busyness tax is something which normally is not being measured, right? So if you are not measuring the then it does not exist. If you don't measure something, it does not exist, and if you don't measure something, you cannot improve, and that is where the challenge of busyness comes in, right? And the way we have identified to measure busyness and convert it into a clarity score is a metric that we have introduced. It's called a busyness scorecard index. So now this is a 5D scorecard, 5-dimensional scorecard. If you want to assess an enterprise and how busy the enterprise is, there could be different dimensions. And each of these 5 Ps, if you are close to zero, on any of these Ps, your organization can be going down the spiral, right? So you have to look at that all these 5 Ps are properly aligned, and you get a good score on those 5 Ps, so that you are going above the upward spiral, right? You're going in the increasing dimension. So I'll give you the 5 Ps that are there, Bob. So the first P is purpose. So purpose, if the organization is clear about their purpose, that is like, you are in darkness, you need light, and you need a compass if you have to move to any direction, any place. So if you have light and you have a compass, then you can technically know, if you know and you know where you are headed, you can be there, right? That is the purpose. So when Satya Nadella came, he redesigned and redefined the purpose of the enterprise. When Walmart CEO Doug McMillon was there, so he redefined the purpose for the organization. And all these things led to the transformation.
And that's the starting point, is the
That's the
purpose.
starting point.
And you have to
Right.
be aligned on the purpose.
If you are
And
not aligned, you are going to create a lot of business tax, right? So if
right.
everybody's priorities are different, they're not aligned, there will be a lot of busyness, a lot of work, but the organization will not be creating that momentum. And so
Hmm.
in scientific language, we call that all the vectors in the organization should be aligned. If those vectors are not aligned, right, then it's going to be nullifying each other, right? If they're going in different directions. So
Exactly.
that is a big problem. The second one is once the purpose is clear, then you define the process. Now, process, people think about just the process of how you deliver something, but here process is broader than that. It is the operating model as well. So when you're thinking about the organization, how you want to structure your organization, what kind of competencies are required to meet the purpose. Now, if the purpose is transforming, you need maybe different competencies. You have different skill sets required. With the same organization, might the same people, the same structure might not be right for delivering on that purpose. So you need to have the operating model and then the value streams. So people think lean is manufacturing, lean or Six Sigma thinking is manufacturing, but lean Six Sigma actually helps value to be clearly defined and make the value flow seamless manner. And just for customer experience professionals, lean Six Sigma is the heart, and foundation for how the value can be flowing to the customer. So
Absolutely. Hmm.
so that's the second element of so first is the purpose, then the process, and then the third one is people. So it's very important we have the right people in the right roles, and they are equally energized, motivated, and have clarity of their role in the bigger purpose. So if all that is not there, then it's going to be creating more business tax for the organization. Even one wrong person hired, can create a lot of friction within the organization. So it is very important to hire the right people, have the right people in the right roles, and understand that they are motivated in that role. If they're not motivated, they're just whiling time. It is not the right thing for the organization as well. And many times you see there are people who are overqualified for roles and they are not motivated because they are not in the right role. So either align them to the right role or let them out of the organization, because that creates
Hmm.
frustration. If you don't have a right role matched with their competence and clarity, then they are not the right fit for the organization for that role. So you have to
Right.
look at alignment there. That is the people
And
part.
do you find sometimes that the roles aren't even aligned to the purpose or the process, that they're carryover roles, or they've always been there, or we've always done it that way? Have you encountered that?
Oh, absolutely. So many times, so many times. And that's where the change management and cultural transformation needs to happen for the organization to have the alignment. And some
Absolutely.
people will have to will not be part of the organization because they are not ready to change, right? And some people are motivated, enthusiastic, but they lack some competencies or skills. So if you can train them and who are ready to move forward with the organization, with the alignment, they are the right people. You can invest on them, and they will be your better leaders for the future.
Right. I mean, it's unfortunate, but sometimes that's what it has to be, is some people have the attitude of this too shall pass, so I'll wait it out, but yet the organization's moving forward. So it's fascinating discussion. Fourth P. I
Yeah.
love this P
Yeah,
process.
the fourth P is practice, Bob. It is the people say it is very boring, but that is the foundation. Every day, what you do, your daily cadences, the daily huddles, the daily ways, the daily reports that you do, and the work that you do every day, how you deliver that, and how you measure that, and how you're constantly creating a ecosystem around that work that you're learning every day and you're improving every day across the organization. That is practice. If you are not learning every day in the organization, you will again be obsolete. You will start paying the business tax because the customer expectations are changing, or the market dynamics are changing, or the product mix which is required for the market to be successful is changing. So if you're not learning from all your day-to-day interactions with the customer, with the product, with the market, then and you're not integrating that into your operations, day-to-day operations, then that can create a business tax as well. So that is a very, very critical P. It's a practice. And many organizations have excelled in this practice. Like Apple, if you see operational excellence, right? So if you go talk to anybody in Apple store globally, you get a similar experience. They care for the customer. They have processes very clearly defined. It's very easy to communicate whatever the problem is, and you get the resolution done. So that is like, systems, structures, processes all get integrated into the daily practice, and that is the fourth P.
Excellent.
And
And our
then
final P?
and the final P is perspective. Now that is very important. Many organizations are, one organization, BlackBerry, was one of the global leaders in smart telephony, mobile phones, and BlackBerries. Even Barack Obama used to take a BlackBerry. But the leaders did not have the right perspective, right? So that's the fourth P. Fifth P is perspective. So the leaders need to have time for them, as Warren Buffett said. I want to sit and reflect. Right? That's not downtime. That's very important. To understand what is happening in the world in which we are, what is happening in the customers, what is changing today, and what changes are going to be impacting our business model, our organization in 5 years down the line, and start getting ready for those. Do we need to start investing today? Because some things, like if we're talking about, everybody's talking about AI today, and then there is research which says that 95% or more than 95% of AI projects are not delivering ROI, right? So there is a big disconnect. So everybody is getting excited. Oh, let's do AI. But until you have the perspective, what is the outcome that you want? Purpose is not clearly defined, and then you don't have the right competence and right team and right structure defined. Then you will not get the right outcome. You are doing something. You're creating busyness there, and more people are busy reporting. Oh, we did 100 proof of concepts for AI. What is the ROI? Oh, no, no, we are not able to measure that. We don't
Right.
know. Yeah. So those
The,
those are the
the
challenges.
the fascinating thing too is, you'll hear organizations point at certain companies like BlackBerry. Oh, they didn't have perspective. They didn't move. And yet I wonder if they're looking at themselves in the mirror asking that same question, so they're not the next BlackBerry, right?
Right, right.
So the five P's in the book, busyness to business, I love it. We're time always goes so fast on these podcasts. So Chandra, before I let you go, and we'll talk about how people can get in touch with you, but before I let you go, is where do we go from here? I mean, you mentioned AI, you mentioned a lot of great information in the book and your perspective with the case studies and examples. Where do we go from here?
So, very simple thing. I think people, leaders, whether they are from CXOs or whosoever, they can, at the back of the book, we have a small QR code. They scan that QR code, they get to the website, a web link, and they can just take a few simple questions. It's a 5-minute questionnaire, 20-25 questions, and that gives them a report card which gets delivered to their email for free. It's all free.
Huh?
Okay, so there is no charge for it, but they get to see how they stack on each of these five P's. Now, if they want to do the same exercise for the organization, they can do it on their own. If let's say a leader has 20 people, 30 people in their organization, they can do this thing and they can calibrate and see how the score aligns. Or they can engage us. We can help them, measure their baseline, where they are, where the gaps are, and then help present, the findings consolidated and what could be the action items. So this executive report is for free. They can, just go to a website, Busyness to Business. Now, two is with number two, business2business.com. And there they can see all the details. They can take the survey, quick survey, get the report, and then they're good to go.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. And Chander, um, if you didn't just write a book, you do lots of other things, and you run a company.
Yes.
And so if people want to, obviously they can get the book, I'm sure, anywhere, Amazon, I'm sure.
Yes,
But
it's
if they
available on
also want to
Amazon.
get in touch with you and your organization,
So
how might they do that?
So the easiest thing is they can reach to me on LinkedIn. They can just send me a note on LinkedIn, right? So that's the easy thing. We can get connected on LinkedIn, and they can go to the website. They can send an email to transform at bizxlcatalyst.com. So that's another thing. So easiest will be, I think, LinkedIn. If anybody wants to connect with me, they can just reach to me, Chander Sharma, on LinkedIn, BizXL Catalyst. So that
Fantastic.
would be the easiest thing. One thing, Bob, I'll just also mention, you just take 30 seconds.
Sure.
For leaders, when they are doing this survey, we have added one section, and we spend a lot of time on that. Is called master class. So master
Oh,
classes,
nice.
at the end, is actually a master class. So where you will be in the arena of some of the best leaders, 16 leaders, global leaders, uh, whom we have whom we have assessed based on the publicly available data. So this is based on the information that we could tap onto, and then we have evaluated them on these 5P framework, each of these 5Ps, right? And then we have, so this is a case study. So this master class is by itself, is very useful for leaders, or even management professionals, even schools, students who are doing their MBAs and all, because they get a brief about the background of the leader, and then what did they do, what challenge they had, and then their evaluation on the 5P framework.
Wow.
And if they go to the survey, they take their own survey, and then they can compare, okay, these
Oh,
5P,
sure.
I am here on each of these 5Ps, and this is how Steve Jobs is compared. This is how Satya Nadella is compared. This is how Mary Barra or Elon Musk are compared, right? On this same
Right.
scale. Then you are able to see, where the delta is, how these, and which whosoever leadership style you like more or less, you can try to benchmark and see what they are doing differently.
Right. I mean, the benchmarking is key because I get this data, but I don't know if I'm good, bad, or indifferent. And I think that's an excellent approach with the master class. So, listeners, I mean, the book gives you the roadmap, the master class, the surveying. I mean, it's all in one that you can evaluate and see whether you're spending more time being busy or more time managing the business, which is what we all want to accomplish. So, Shana, thanks for your time today. It's been fantastic.
Thank you, Bob.
Um,
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure listening to you and your perspective. And listeners, as always, if you've enjoyed this podcast, please share it with your network and stay tuned. We will wrap up this season of the All Things Considered CX podcast Unhinged. Chander is a great guest to wrap up this season, and we'll kick off in early January with our new season of podcasting. Until then, enjoy the holidays. Thanks, everybody.
So lead with clarity in 2026.
Wonderful.
Let's all lead with clarity in 2026. Thank you, Bob. Wish you happy holidays. Happy holidays to your viewers as well.
Wonderful. Thanks, Shander.